Huh? Oh, yeah. Hey, again, thank you, parents, for encouraging all the children this week to commit to memory, to store in their heart the Ten Commandments, and kids for being bold enough and brave enough to share that. I appreciate that greatly. All right, several years ago, Tammy and I were flying back from Las Vegas, and we were out at the World of Concrete for this concrete convention, and tickets were cheaper out of, this time we were coming out of Chattanooga. I remember because to save the $100 in parking, we parked our vehicle at Drew and Laura's house. And so the deal was, when we flew back, they were going to pick us up, take us back to our vehicle, we'd head on back to Kingsport. Well, Drew was at work, one of the kids was sick. For whatever reason, they couldn't pick us up. So here we are in the baggage claim, got the text message, no one can come get you, sorry, get an Uber. Uber to me is like super in German, right? It's above and beyond and stronger. All right, I'm at baggage. My battery is almost dead because I didn't put my phone in airplane mode on the plane, so it's trying to find a signal. I've got 1 bar of cell phone coverage. I've got at the time, my iPhone 4, which has no memory on it. I'm deleting stuff with my battery dying, downloading the app only to find out I've got to enter in my credit card. And now I'm getting the signal, low battery life, close everything down. I'm thinking I'm going to be stuck like that Tom Hanks character at the airport for 20 years. So, first and only time I ever did it. All I'm saying was, for an old person like me, it was a challenge. Now, I have yet to do DoorDash or Grubhub. Tammy has used OpenTable for us to get reservations. I'm not a huge app. I do have an app for measuring concrete. I love Evernote. If you need something for making lists and saving stuff, Evernote is the way to go. We live in a culture that everything is seemingly app-driven, right? You have an app for everything on your phone. As helpful as apps are on your phone, they cannot replicate or replace personal responsibility. There is not an app, they make life more convenient, makes a lot of things easier, there's a lot of time saving out there, but they cannot replace personal responsibility. So, the kids did the Ten Commandments this week. I expect Graham to do the alphabet next week, right? Okay. So you might have an app on your phone that could teach your kid the alphabet, but there's not an app that teaches them to love reading. Do you understand what I'm saying? Apps cannot replace personal responsibility. And today the title of the sermon is The Parenting App. So obviously, I'm more interested in parenting than I am in app. And I'll be honest, from the time that our kids were little, grade school, I had this mistaken fantasy world in my mind that said, my parenting duty, my parenting responsibilities ends when their teen years end. I don't know that as parents we ever lose that sense of duty or obligation to our offspring. I think you always feel like you're going to be their parent. Greg and Kathy are over there nodding profusely, like yes. You just don't. I don't know that you ever feel like you lose that obligation to your offspring. And I will say this before I go further. Maybe you're a grandparent. Maybe your kids are grown and gone. Maybe you don't have any young people under your tutelage anymore. Listen, these are challenging times for parents of young kids today. They need all the help they can get from people who can mentor, offer advice, be there for support, what have you. But these are challenging times. Good night. Tammy and I, probably a week doesn't go by where we don't say, it would be hard to be a parent in this day and age, you know. And, you know, I'm not knocking people that give their little kids a cell phone to play with, but I'm like, gosh, how would I have handled that? Because I'm so uptight, rigid, and I'm overbearing, and I'm... Wait, this isn't my counseling session. Hold on, let me back up for a minute. It would be hard, right? Kids want to be stimulated. They want to always have their mind going. And man, that's just one small, minuscule challenge. Young kids, plug your ears for a minute. There's some stuff that's on the internet that kids don't need to see, right? And man, it's just, the internet's on their phone, it's on the computer. Challenging probably doesn't summarize the difficulty it is to raise kids today. I mean, it's hard. They need all the help they can get. Demanding times. Now, I know there's some parenting apps out there that can help, right? That can set all the parental controls on every tech device that you have out there, right? There's apps out there that help teach babies how to speak. There's apps out there to help if you're having a hard time getting your child to eat, right? That can help with that, to read, to speak. And there's a lot of apps for activities and intellectual development, but there is no parent app. There's no app that raises our children. There's never, ever going to be a phone app that replaces you as mom and dad. Ever. Our example as adults, as moms and dads, that's the best app there is for children. Okay, a surrogate church family helps a lot too. Having people around like that can help step in. I want us to reflect for a moment on Proverbs 22, verse 6. Proverbs 22, verse 6. The proverb writer says, "Train up a child in the way he should go, and even when he is old, he will not depart from it." You know who really takes this verse at face value? The Amish. They have that phrase, Rumspringa, which I think is German for jump or leap or bound or something like that. Rumspringa. So when Amish adolescents are in their coming of age phase, mom and dad say, okay, here's what our values are, but you go out into the world, experience it, do all the inappropriate things, whatever, and you decide if you want to return to your faith. That's bold. That's brave. That's trusting. They take this verse at face value. Train up a child in the way they should go. When they are old, they will not depart from it. How many times have we heard parents comfort other parents when a child is going through troubled times? And you say, don't worry. You train them up in the way they should go. They're gonna turn back around one day. Their brain will connect. It'll come back, right? Train up a child in the way they should go. When they're old, they'll not depart from it. I want to focus, as we reflect on that passage, train up a child in the way they should go, I want to focus on 3 responsibilities that I believe we have as parents. So, respect, relationships, and I hate to do it, but to be an alliteration, I'll say religion, right? Respect, relationships, and faith is really what I want to talk about, but it's probably easier to remember if I say respect, relationships, and religion. Our responsibility as parents, as we raise children. I'm probably not the first person to observe this or the first person to articulate it. We have a problem. Our culture, our society is suffering. And I'm going to tell you what I think, as an old codger, I think our number one problem in society is it's disrespectful kids. Disrespectful kids that grow up to be disrespectful adults. good night. They better be glad I'm not a policeman. I'm telling you what, man, if I had a badge and a club, I'd be knocking these kids. Oh, wait, again, this is not my counseling session. Let me back up a minute. I have no tolerance for impolite, disrespectful, snot-nosed kids. Talk back to their parents, you're going to talk back to your teacher. I'll tell you this, I have said this a lot of times. A lot of this disrespect that is allowed to continue is just preparing that kid for a life in prison. If you can't get along with your parents and your school teachers, you're never going to keep a job. I mean, you're not doing the child any favor. I don't know if you've thought about this. I bet Kellen and Tallis are probably more in tune with it, having been in the police or in the police world. Do you know a lot of crimes are intergenerational? It's what's modeled for them. If I could be disrespectful at home, and I can disrespect that on. It's what I'm modeling for the next generation. So from setting bad examples to absentee parenting, we're all paying the price. When kids are disrespectful, everybody in all of society pays the price. So without beating a dead horse too long, I just want to say it's time to teach respect. I can put up with a lot from kids, but I can't put up with disrespect. And it's not just that I'm an old cranky man. It's hurting our culture. It truly is. You look at the entertainment industry, you look at, well, all right, you get the point. Sometimes parents get distracted, sometimes they're disinterested, sometimes they feel disengaged. Sometimes parents just have a low tolerance for their kids' pain and they don't want to discipline them, but let's do y'all all a favor and let's reinstall respect. All right, more important than installing respect, though, is teaching children how to have real relationships, how to learn how to relate to others. I love Jordan Peterson. I don't know what you think about him. I don't have a man crush on him. I don't mean it like that, but I love the things that he has to say. And in his first book on 12 rules, I can't remember which chapter it is. It's like chapter 4, chapter 6. It's out of the box on parenting children. And I've looked up a couple of his lectures. He is consistent in this. You will develop a child that will be lonesome and isolated if by age 4 you don't teach them how to cooperate. Now, I'm summing up a lot of what his literature says and a lot of what his lectures is, but it comes down to that. Your child will be lonesome and isolated if they don't know how to cooperate. Sometimes he talks about being able to play with other kids. Sometimes he talks about being able to share with other kids. Sometimes being able to, do make-believe with other kids. But he says you have until age 4, and it goes by really quickly, to shape that child. If not, they become antisocial. And you're hurting the child if we don't teach them by age 4 how to cooperate. I'm an introvert. Most of you know that. I do great with 1 or 2 people, big crowd of people, or spending a lot of time with people, and it's hard because I get, drained. But I'm not an antisocial person. I love people in small doses. I love people. But I don't want to be antisocial. I don't want to be. Tammy says if she dies first, she's afraid I'll be a hermit. There's a good chance of that. I don't know. But I know that relationships are vital. What better skill can we give our kids than to teach them how to have relationships? And when it comes to imparting relationship skills, there's no substitute for mom and dad, right? Mom and dad, you have to model conflict in a healthy way for your kids. I have done a lot of marriage counseling with young adults and adult people who say, I never saw my parents fight. I don't know how to fight. I'm afraid to fight, right? Best thing you can do is show your kids how to have a disagreement without being a jerk, right? Mom and dad, we model for our kids how to have healthy conflict. We display what it means to have self-discipline, right? There's so many categories in life where if we had more self-discipline, we would be healthier and happier. It's mom and dads who teach how to share. Mom and dads are the ones who show young people how it is, what it looks like, what it means to extend grace. You blew it, that was a mistake, but this is what grace looks like. That is learned in the home. And I'll tell you, the biggest conflict, the biggest struggle, the hardest problem it seems like parents have is, I want to be my kid's friend. They don't know how to teach their children how to make friends or how to choose friends. Like, I want to be the cool parent. I want to be their friend. Okay? All right, I get it. I understand it. But they need a leader in the house. They need a guide in the house. They need a mentor in the house. You need friends your own age. They need friends their own age. I'm not saying we're at odds. We don't want to be friendly with our kids. We need to show them how to choose friends. 1 Corinthians 15:33, you've heard me cite this 1,000 times, Lord will, and I'll cite it 1,000 more times. Do not be deceived. Bad company corrupts good character. Have you ever heard that before, Clay?
Yeah, a few times.
A few times. Clay, you have always done well at selecting friends. I will commend you on that. You're a good man. I appreciate that. And that's so important. You're going to be like the people you surround yourselves with. And so we have to help our kids learn about relationships. All right, I talked about respect, right? Let's reinstate respect. We talked about relationships. Now I'm going to talk about religion. When Drew was old enough, when our oldest was old enough to learn how to drive, when it came that time around, the church we're at, Larry, he was a garbage man, cool guy. I mean, just a little bit older than us. He and Bernie, they've been married for I don't know how long, but they never had kids. And Drew was at that age where it was time to learn how to drive. And Larry came to me. Oh, can I please teach Drew how to drive? Can I please teach? He was like, and I'm like, yes, please, thank you, right? This is God send, right? Will you teach my kid to drive? No, I didn't have to ask him. He comes to me and says, can I please teach Drew how to drive? I gladly abdicated that responsibility. Yes, please. I think there are a lot of life skills, a lot of lessons, maybe even all of them, where we should allow other adults to influence our kids, all except for faith. You cannot abdicate passing faith on to your kids. By the way, Drew learned how to drive. Larry and he both lived the experience. It all worked out fine. Do you believe eternity is real? I'm going to ask you that right now. Do you believe when you die that you go somewhere forever? If you believe eternity is real, what is more important than helping your kids transition properly into eternity? You know, it's hard to think about when they're little toddlers, right? There's going to come a day where they're going to die. Where are they going to go? Right? I mean, as important as it is to be respectful and to have good relationships, man, if eternity is real, we could supplement teachings about eternity, but we cannot delegate it. We want believers as mentors in their life, but we want to be right there. Going to church doesn't get you into heaven. But I don't know how we get into heaven without the relationship that we form through church. You don't go to church and then earn your way into heaven because you're there, but church is a vital part of that. And I believe that as parents, we want to model that for our kids. We want to get them to experience that. But we also, kind of like the Amish have that Rumspringa where they let the kids go, we also have to let our kids explore a little bit, right? We want them to have the faith of our world. But also, if Johnny invites them to church on Sunday, sometimes, But we don't delegate that responsibility, and we come back together as a family. We talk about what'd you learn, what'd you experience, how was it, and here's what we believe at home, and here's the congregation that we think is great for you and is going to help you out, and we want to model for them a love and attendance and participation, because eternity is real. This is not bragging by any stretch, but I really don't remember how many people I've baptized over the years. But none of them were as important as participating in our 4 sons being baptized. You might be able to share the good news with a lot of people, and I hope that you do. You may be able to talk about church with a lot of people, and I hope that you do. But none are going to be more important than your own children. Helping them think about faith and all the implications of faith. I have realized now as an adult, and we have 2 kids in their mid-30s, so that tells you that I am really getting old, a couple in their 20s. I've learned this: you're not going to pass on your political views. You may not. You're not going to pass on your hobbies, your pastimes, the shows you like, the books you like to read, whatever. There's a lot that you may like. It's not going to pass on. All of your values are not going to transfer. And you just have to come to grips with that. That's just part of adulthood, right? But what matters most? What is the most important that we can pass on to our children? In other words, what's the legacy you're leaving? The most important, I'm going to say, is your faith. So they disagree politically, whatever. They disagree about a host of other things. The best and most valuable legacy is our faith. Now here's where the rubber meets the road. Faith only becomes second nature for our children when faith is a natural part of the home. When it's natural to us, it becomes natural to the children. Deuteronomy, which by the way, Deutero is second, nominee would be law. The second law, Deuteronomy. This is Moses' last speech, Deuteronomy is, right? He's given it all. Coach, I left it all on the field, right? And he's going to recite a lot of what he's taught. One of my favorite movies, Fiddler on the Roof. I've never seen the actual play, but Fiddler on the Roof, most of you have seen it or you're familiar with it. And you'll notice when they're coming and going in the house, there's a little bracket nailed on the inside of the doorpost. And you see them kiss their fingers and touch it. It's called the Shema. In Hebrew, Shema means hear. Where does that come from? Deuteronomy 6. Verse 1, now this is the commandment, the statutes, the rules that the Lord your God commanded me to teach you, that you may do them in the land. They're going into the promised land. They're crossing over the Jordan. They're going to inherit what's promised to them. Their children will anyway. To possess it, that you may fear the Lord your God, you, your son's sons, by keeping all his statutes, his commandments, which I commanded you all the days of your life, that your days may be long. Hear, therefore, Shema. Hear, therefore, Shema. Hear, therefore, O Israel, and be careful to do them, that it may go well with you, that you may multiply greatly as the Lord your God of your fathers has promised you, in a land flowing with milk and honey. And here it comes, verse 4. Hear, O Israel. Literally in the Hebrew, listen, you who wrestle with God. Israel becomes the name of the nation, but it means one who wrestles, or it means wrestling with God. You who have grappled with the Almighty. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might. And these words I command you today shall be on your heart. And here's where it comes for family. Verse 7. You shall diligently to your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, and when you rise up. You'll bind them as a sign on your hand, They'll be frontlets between your eyes. You'll write them on the doorpost of your house and your... It's a part of life. It's natural. We sit down for a meal. We say a blessing over the meal. Pray before you go to bed at night. Whatever. Going to church together. Whatever. Aspects of your faith. When you get up, when you lie down, when you rise up, when you walk around. It is just a natural part. And when faith is a natural part in the home, it becomes second nature for the kids as they grow up. So let me close with this. Respectable, well-adjusted, faithful children do not happen on accident. It doesn't happen on accident. Responsible parents with a healthy perspective of what it means to have duty and obligation. Not burdensome, not beat yourself up, but to have a healthy sense of duty and obligation. We play a vital role. I'm going to say the most vital role as parents in their life. What is more important than guiding our children through life to help them find the answers to the greatest questions in life? Where did I come from? Why am I here? What is eternity? Is there a God? These are some of the greatest questions. And I'm thankful for our church family. I'm thankful for the adults in life that we've met through church who have helped our kids. Thankful for a good spouse who has always been a great asset. Can't say that I'm always thankful for the responsibility because sometimes it seems, but it's there and it's a part of parenting.